I guess just introduce yourself for the listeners, for me as well, because in a way you've changed so much that I don't know you, even though we're cousins, right? But
Yeah.
we kind of have to learn about each
I'm
other now as adults.
100%. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. My name's Krishna. I'm Vamsi's cousin. I'm living in San Diego, studying music and acting here, but it's a short-term 6-month exchange program.
Mhm.
21 years old, just turned 21 recently. Um, yeah, I figured that covers it, right?
Yeah, and also you're
Based
from
on my intro.
Australia. If people are wondering about the accent,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I live in Australia. That's where I've lived for the past. I lived there since 2010. Used to live in Dubai before that.
for Sharjah,
Um,
we
Sharjah,
were
yeah.
like neighbors. Yeah, almost.
Yeah, we were neighbors basically. And yeah, we moved there, immigrated there in 2010, and then I became a citizen in 2017.
Mhm.
So yeah, been there what's that, like 13 years now, nearly? Yeah.
It's interesting because we went to Canada about 2009, 2010 as well, and I think I became a citizen in like 2017, so like 6 years ago. So very similar
Hmm.
trajectory, but yours was in Australia, mine was in Canada, Vancouver.
Yeah.
And what brought you to
Yeah.
San Diego? The film industry, acting industry.
Actually, I applied for multiple different universities in California.
Okay.
I chose California because, yeah, it's, like LA specifically was my first choice,
Mhm.
but it's more competitive, and I didn't get into LA, but I got into UCSD, which I'm really happy about actually.
Mhm.
It's kind of like it's got a perfect balance here for the type of person I am.
Mhm.
Um,
How
so I'm
so?
I'm pretty happy they're going. Yeah.
What's the
How
balance?
so?
Yeah.
Like the place is not so I mean, as far as the city goes, it's not particularly like busy in a sense. But when it comes to creativity, you kind of need quiet, I feel, at least me personally. It depends on the type of personality, but me, I kind of, there's these quiet hours where it just like you have nothing to do sometimes, and it forces you to be creative, you're like, okay, might as well do something with this time I have. And it actually just helps, like, writing lyrics or something like that, you need some quiet time. So, and also the program that's here, at least in this place, just happened to be really good for music. Even acting is pretty good, but like the music, the guy that's here, he's a legend. Like, he's just, what he's doing kind of affords total creative freedom and like minimal requirements in terms of what you need to like fulfill.
Mhm.
He kind of just gives you the knowledge to make what you want to make, but there's no restriction as to what you make. There's no like certain style you have to stick to or certain type of thing you can only make. There might be like certain restrictions as to like how big it can be or something, or like it needs to be a certain length of time maybe, just to, save him marking everything, I suppose. But apart from that, it's like it's pretty free.
So solitude, quietude, and freedom, freedom of expression, but then some guidelines because creativity. It's hard to be creative with complete freedom. You need some fence posts, whether you impose them yourself or whether someone helps you, figure out like
I
what are my
I
boundaries,
suppose
or at
I
least what's
suppose
my
I think
direction. Yeah.
yeah, I think, oh yeah, direction. I think that I think creativity doesn't need boundaries.
Okay.
The boundaries, you set them yourself. Like, you
Hmm.
you decide where you want it to do. But if whatever it is, it's like there is no boundary to begin with.
Hmm.
You have to decide where you want to go. Like, your boundary might be, okay, I want to stick to this genre or something like that, or I want to produce this specific type of sound or whatever it is, and that's something that you create yourself. But as to like what you make, you know, it can be whatever the hell you want, and it can sound awful to everyone else but really good to you,
Hmm.
because like, that's just how creativity and like biases and taste and stuff like that. I think there is no boundary in a university. There is, because they have a curriculum that they have to like deliver, and they have to be able to like grade you on things.
Hmm.
So there's a sense of, okay, well, we need to actually have something that we can apply to everybody despite different skill levels and different creative styles. We need to be able to mark everybody equally
Hmm.
to a certain extent. So that's where the boundaries come in the university. But when it comes to music that I make, I don't I don't have like a boundary per se. I'll have like a vision of something, and that's my boundary. A specific thing I want to make. So that's just okay. Well, I want to make that, so I will make that. But as to like where it can go, you're never really in the driver's seat. Like, especially if you sample stuff, you kind of just it just goes where it goes, and you have to just be willing to go with it.
What do you mean by sampling stuff?
So sampling is like a specific art form where you take people have there's different, people release songs and stuff, and you might take bits and pieces of that and flip it to your own way you want it to sound.
Mm.
So hip hop and rap is built off sampling, basically. That's how it
Is that kind
began.
of like
It's really just
remixing?
not exactly. Remixing, the way remixing works is that you'll have a song somebody made, and then generally another producer will come in and say, "Hey, can I remix this song?" And they'll give them all the stems, which are just each aspect of the song separated. So here are the drums, here's the vocals, here's the hi-hats or whatever it is. Like they'll give you
All
every
the
separate
tracks.
thing, and then
Mhm,
yeah, and then you do what you want with it. Sampling is like somebody has made a song. They don't know you're using it yet. You
mhm,
just take it and you do what you want with it, and later on you have to go through all these clearance issues. It's a bit of a pain actually, because
mhm,
once you've done it and you're up to a certain level of like fame and stuff, and like you're big enough, you need to get these things cleared, which means that you have to go to every person that was involved in making the song and be like, "Hey, is this okay? Is this okay?" And they'll probably take a little cut of money as well from whatever it is you make, because you're using their stuff
So
to
you
an
give them
extent.
royalties, which makes sense.
Y-
Yep.
Yeah, it makes sense. But it's a really, I think it's a beautiful form of art. Like especially the fact that there's a whole genre built around it is, I think, sells it enough for its own form of creation, and it spawns a lot of different things. I
Mhm,
think it's also like it's the poor man's musician, like music in a way, because it's like, what do you do when you don't have a drum kit to make drums, or you
mhm,
take someone else's recorded drums and then you flip them in the way you want them to sound,
mhm,
right? So I think it's kind of beautiful that it affords people who can't record live sounds to still be able to get the sounds that they want to get and make what they want to make.
mhm. So it gives
Yeah.
people actual resources to use in their own art, and in that way, that's a different kind of freedom, right? The freedom to take what's in your
Yeah,
mind and make it real using various
exactly. Like,
creative methods. Yeah, I
yeah,
know
when
some.
you don't have access to these things, like exactly.
Mhm. And then some people, I think you can synthesize drums and other things as well using software, right? Some people do that, like MIDI instruments that they use software to make. Um, I guess last time we spoke was about maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago,
Yeah.
and if I remember correctly, you were interested in like visual art, digital art, drawing, like these abstract things. You showed me a bunch of artwork, and then also you were interested in biochemistry. Was that your school path at that time, or was it something else?
Biotech
Biotech.
yeah,
Okay,
it was
technology.
my school path. Currently, I'm not. It's a bit of a hassle right now.
Hmm.
I'm in a process. I don't want to pursue it right now. That's
Hmm.
not the right time for me. So at that point, it was 2020 that we spoke.
Hmm.
So I hadn't actually delved into music. I just had a very strong feeling that music and acting was something that I would be interested in, and
Yeah.
that would actually like make me feel happy in life. And it wasn't, that year was a pretty sad year for me, honestly. Like that first year of university, I was just not happy with life
Hmm.
in general. COVID had just hit, and I was like, I was pretty depressed that year. And then I essentially, it was a catalyst for me, and it just pushed me to do what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
So I completely did a 180. I took the next year off.
Hmm.
I took the next year off, and I just did music. And then it kind of all clicked for me. I was like, okay, well, this is definitely the my life's passion for one. So I found it, and now I don't want to really waste any more time going to university. I
For
did
the
in
wrong
some
thing.
way,
Yeah.
yeah, for the wrong thing,
Yeah.
right? But biotech is not necessarily the wrong thing. Like science, there's something in science for me.
Hmm.
I have a very strong feeling about that. It's just the wrong time. I think that something I'll pursue in my 30s or something like that. Like when I have reached the level of success that I want to reach in music and acting,
Hmm.
I'll pursue science after that.
Yeah, and I think some of the most successful and innovative people I've met, they do multiple careers over the course of their life, and they often find unique ways to meld careers. Like a physicist who went into business management, Eli Goldratt, and he wrote some of the best business management and optimization stuff because he brought his physics mindset to that field. And so imagine if you somehow bring creative ideas from music into biotechnology, and you might make evolutionary music or something with AI. You never know, right? Like fields are constantly evolving. You can always find creative ways to combine them. Yeah, for me, I feel like podcasting or some form of interviewing people or hearing their stories, learning about them, and also sharing my ideas vocally is like my calling, basically. And it took me 27 years to find it. Took you maybe 21 years to find music. That's great, right? It's everyone has their own pace and path, but I'm really glad that you decided, okay, I'm not going to waste any more time because I've realized how precious each day is. I don't want to go to bed with regrets anymore, and I've spent so much of my life already regretting inaction and fear and doubt. So no more room for that.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's a thing. It's a giant regret. Um, I definitely I regret like not pursuing because I had the feeling
Hmm.
like the moment that I sat down and made music was probably the angriest I've ever been at myself in my life, like
Because you're like, why
in
didn't
a
I do this
single moment.
sooner? Right?
Yeah, because I had like a voice in my head for like 7 years telling me to do this thing, like
Yep.
that long, and you just sit there ignoring it. It was there were reasons that were not to do with myself that I didn't pursue it.
Hmm.
It wasn't like a fear of pursuing this thing. It was other stuff that really hindered me, and or like ultimately it was my own decision, but the reason for it was not my own in a sense,
I mean, you would have
or
been
to
like
do with
14
myself.
years old, right? And I've had a 15-year-old on the podcast. I've had a 17-year-old, an 18-year-old. And I get the sense that as a child, it can be very hard to pursue what you're really interested in because there's so much pressure from teachers, from parents, from society to do the safe thing, the right thing, get good grades, and all that. When I feel like it's actually the riskiest thing you can do in life is not pursue what your intrinsic joyful curiosity is driving you towards. Because you'll rediscover that at 25 or 30 or 35 or 50 when you have a midlife crisis. But like, then it's like, what, why, why was it forced to take so long? But I think that as a society, we fail to really nurture people in their passions because I find when I'm doing what I love, I learn like 5 times faster than when I'm doing stuff I don't love. So like I could be really good at something if I just chose things I liked instead of forcing myself. So
Yeah,
now
no,
with
I agree.
music, yeah, what I guess help me understand what you're doing with music and how it. So you do sampling, you do like what genres do you like? Because I don't know much about music.
This is several different genres. I generally I don't limit myself to like a genre, like I have my own taste,
Hmm.
obviously. Like
And it's a
the music that I
complex
listen
thing. You
to
can't
is,
define it probably.
yeah, you can't really like, well, I leave that to other people. Like I'll make something and they can call it what they want, but like I didn't make it with an idea of like it should be this genre necessarily,
That's just
that's
how
not
it
always
evolved as you were working on it.
exactly right.
Hmm.
So it kind of goes where it goes. Like you're not really ever controlling this stuff. That's how I feel at least. But generally, like if I the people like the tags that I get is like is indie alternative,
Hmm.
indie pop, is hip hop, rap, and alternative forms of those same things in trap. Sometimes I do some rock stuff, but it's kind of rare. Most of it just kind of goes where it goes. To be honest, like I think generally speaking, the way I see things is that I'll hear a sound, like if I'm sampling something, I'll hear a sound and it'll develop something. And the one that I currently am working on, it just happened to be like the perfect sound track for the current headspace I'm in.
Hmm.
So the lyrics fit like what I'm feeling right now fits exactly what I want to write about, which fits exactly what I've made, produced the beat, like the sound for.
Hmm.
But oftentimes you might write something first, and then you have to figure out what sound works with it, right? What is it that like accompanies this and creates the same feeling or portrays the idea that you want to portray.
Hmm.
So it can be a complex process, but generally, like when it comes to production, no matter where you go, like where you start with it, it sort of just goes where it goes. Like you might not, even if you don't start with sampling something, you can start with like piano, with guitar, or whatever it is, like an idea, and then you're like, oh well, I hear something, and then okay, you make what you hear, and then it goes from there. Oh, I hear something else now. You
Hmm.
just have to be open to those things.
So the important thing is not to be suppressing yourself, your creative self, your subconscious self, whatever it might be. That voice inside you that's
Yeah,
kind of like, hey, this is cool, let's follow it. Let's try it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that the moment you start doing that is the moment that you find yourself like you're no longer learning, you're no longer making new things or trying to be, trying to make things that are different in a sense. I think, well, you don't have to make things that are different all the time, but
Maybe unique
when
to
you start
you,
to,
right?
yeah, right. And generally like that's also the thing when it comes to like people who listen to music now and they say like, oh, modern music is garbage, or like, old music is always much better.
Hmm.
If you're a musician and you say that, you've lost. Like that's the day that you should like probably stop being a musician.
Hmm.
Because if you can't like appreciate what it is people are doing in a different sound, that's the day that you won't be relatable anymore to people, because soundtracks change for people, like taste changes. I didn't always listen to rap. I
Hmm.
never listened to it actually until I started making music, because I fell into sampling uh just by chance in a sense. Like I was like I it was like it was just the genre that it fit my exact circumstances at the time,
Mm-hmm.
which was that I was like, hey, I want drums, but I have no drums. I'll just take someone else's drums, and do something with it. But I didn't know that the genre of hip hop was built on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I did that, I was like, I'm not the only one to do this, surely. And I looked it up, and I was like, oh, sure, lo and behold, there's a whole genre built around it. There's a whole thing. There's a culture around this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's been done before for decades now. Um, and it kind of just I gravitated towards that because I didn't have the money to like buy drums or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those types of things, you just need to be open to like whatever it is that comes your way, and different sounds, because they not they may not necessarily relate to people now, but later down the line it might, which is also a bit sad in some sense. But I think that whatever it is, like, yeah, anything can be music. It's art. It's like you can't really say what it is.
Mm-hmm. It's constantly evolving. And I think there was something insightful you said there that I want to go back and unpack a little bit, which was just this idea that because we talked about constraints and boundaries and how they can either aid creativity or fence it in and make it hard, um, or direction, right? And you mentioned that you couldn't afford to buy drums, but I found like some of the greatest innovations come because someone can't afford something, but then they don't say that means I can't do it. They figure out, well, how can I do it anyway, even with no money or less money? And then you figured it out, right? You went online, you found tracks, you used them, and then you realized there's a whole genre. So it's like a combination of your perseverance or determination despite lacking resources, and also curiosity at like, oh, now that I've done this, I wonder if other people have done it too. And then you found out, yes, they did. But you came to that idea yourself. And I think self discovery is really key to progress, learning, innovating. And once people start, just copying others, or they stop discovering things themselves, you're right. I think they've lost in some sense, right? They may be relatable to other people then, but I don't know if they're relatable to themselves anymore. Is the ultimate self betrayal. So, how do you think you'll manage to, I guess, retain that sense of self discovery over time? Because it seems like I've been wondering about this. It seems like at some point, it seems like people go from innovating to then starting to become derivative, or just trying to hold on to the success that they've already gotten rather than continuing to make their own work. Where some artists continue to innovate through like until they die. So I don't know what the difference is. Do you know? Or do you have an idea?
Uh, my idea with it is
Mm-hmm.
it's exactly what you said before. It's like self-discovery. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I realized something is like for a long time I was obsessed with time and like being making use of every moment,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think it's definitely a double-edged sword where
Mm-hmm.
you can become obsessive to the point that you forget to live. Like you
Right.
forget to like I became obsessed with time in relation to music. So it became a sense of like every second that I wasn't spending making music, I was filled with like some sense of regret
Mm-hmm.
because I have a big dream, and if I don't spend the seconds, every second going towards this thing, that's a second wasted.
Mm-hmm.
That's a second that I'm losing, and I'm losing time towards achieving this dream sooner. But I
Right.
think that's like a rat race mentality, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like you're stuck in this thing and you're like, okay, you gotta make it work quick.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, like I realized something is that you can't make good music if you haven't lived life, if you haven't had any experiences, if you haven't tried things out.
Mm-hmm.
You're relatable to nobody, and you know nothing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're a empty canvas. Like you need to have some paint on you to be able to paint something else as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I see it. So ultimately, I think it's like if you've made something, when I make something, right now, when what I see for myself, making an EP is my current mental space. It's the experiences that I'm living through.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I'm going through right now, and that fuels the type of songs that I'm making.
Mm-hmm.
But later down the line, there's a valleys and peaks. You've gone up this mountain, now you have to go back down and go up another one later, and that's going to influence me in a different way. As long as you take the breaks and find new experiences to live in life, do something different, find something else to connect with. I think that'll inspire you to be creative in a different way. That's one of the reasons that later down the line, which I think will inspire a lot of creativity, is I want to just live in India for a couple years. Like
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really experienced India, and it's my home.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the real home. So I want to do that, and I think it'll really influence a totally different uh divergence to music for me that's later down the line though. I see that pathway like somewhere, kind of a very faint vision of it. But right now, like I'm doing what I'm currently living in is what influencing the music that I'm making right now.
Mhm.
Um, but then a year from now, it'll probably be different. I'll have different experiences, different hardships, different adversities, different fun things that I've gone through. So
Mhm.
the moment that you stop living, I guess, is the moment you stop innovating.
Mhm.
Like that's the way I see it, you know?
Right. So the moment that you accept stagnation or staticity, then you've decided, okay, then you can't make art, you can't learn, you can't innovate. It's different. You have to constantly be doing and experiencing and learning new things. And I think the human mind does that best when it's left to its own devices, right? I think that we're the ones who sabotage ourselves. But I wanted to ask you, do you think, like, how much of your wanderlust or this desire to travel, this desire to see the world, to experience these novel things, how much do you think it's influenced by Samyukta's traveling and her own passion for it?
Oh, that's a
Samyukta
good
being your elder
question.
sister, yeah, for the listeners out
Yeah,
there.
well, she definitely fought more battles for me. Like that's the biggest thing, because my Amma and Appa were not happy with traveling initially. They were like, okay, it's funny because I think Appa was probably fine with it. She's done so much traveling, in comparison. But it's just a fear, you have a child, you're like, okay, well, I want you to be safe. So she fought a lot of battles to make sure that so that she could do it, which meant it was really quite relatively easy for me to
She
go
cleared the
ahead and
path
do
for
what.
you.
Yeah,
She blazed the trail for you. Yeah,
exactly. So
interesting.
it was easy for me, and it influenced me. Like her thing to make an exchange, do an exchange program, like
Hmm.
from her experiences, definitely made me want to do it. The the reason I wanted to travel to California and specifically was to do with music and acting. Like I had the plan went kind of perfect, honestly. Like in all of its sense was that okay. I was fed up with uni, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take a year off. I'm gonna make money and I'm gonna make music.
Hmm.
And if music is what I want to do, then the next year after that, I'm going to take the second half of the year off and go to America to pursue these things and create a foundation in music here, like contacts and things to hopefully be able to come back here, like and move here.
Hmm.
That was the plan that I had, and it's gone pretty well, to be honest. For the most part, moving here is a whole different ball game because visa shit is another. American visas are just horrible.
Yeah,
Like in
can be very
general.
restrictive.
Sorry.
Yeah, can be very
Excuse me.
restrictive.
Yeah, so that's a whole other thing. But definitely she influenced me in the sense that I heard her experiences. I'm like, that sounds fun and I would love to travel. Um and she made it easy for me to do it by fighting that battle.
Hmm.
But the decision to come here was revolved around a career and like an idea that I had,
Hmm.
like a hope that okay, well maybe if I can build contacts here and have some sort of base to an extent to build off of, because this is kind of where the center for things. Like you can make a center anywhere you are.
Hmm.
I also just generally enjoy living here so much more. It's just the independence is amazing. Like having had a taste of independence now, I'm finding it like hard to imagine going back to not being independent. That's the stage I'm at right now.
So by independence, you mean you get to make your own decisions. Do you live on your own, or do you have roommates, or how does it work? Is it a dorm?
I live off campus, so I have roommates.
Okay.
So I don't mind the idea of like, well, when I would like when I move here, probably I'll have my own room, and
Hmm.
then like it's cheaper, I think, generally to rent out a two-bedroom apartment or whatever, like
Hmm.
so
And share it with.
someone else can be in the other one.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's totally fine with me. Like
and
I
that can be a
probably
creative
prefer that.
inspiration too, right?
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
so right now I share a room with somebody.
Hmm.
It's not the best, to be honest. Like it's sharing a room is not the best, but luckily my roommate's great.
Hmm.
He's a cool guy. So, but
It's not as bad as it could be.
yeah, it's pretty good, honestly. All things considered, it's pretty good,
Yeah.
and it's better than living alone, to be honest.
Right.
Like here, when living totally alone, I can see how that would make you feel worse about being independent in that sense.
Mm.
But I just like, you don't have to ask anybody anything. You got something to do, go do it. That's it. Like there's
You don't
no
need permission.
you're the Yeah, you're the master of your own day, like fully. That's your thing. There is a sense of there's more responsibility. You gotta, you gotta do anything. Anything and everything is up to you. You know, like even the small things, and they might add up more than you think, but you get used to it. You know, at first it's like just doing small shit. It gets to you. Like, okay, you forget to eat sometimes. Like you forget to do laundry or whatever. Like all those things. But eventually, like I imagine if I were to live here, like just by myself, I could do it pretty easily. You know, you get into a routine and
Yep,
that's it. You're kind of good to go. And I prefer it because yeah, I just have the freedom to do everything that I want to do, and that's something that's pretty invaluable.
I agree. Because I mean, I'm experiencing the same thing, right? I forgot to eat today, but I was just doing stuff that I loved way more than eating, so it's fine. And yesterday I managed to eat 3 meals a day, like Karthik is trying to get me to do it 8 a.m., 12 p.m., 6 p.m., according to Ayurveda and stuff. He has me reading a book on
Yeah.
Ayurveda as well. It's pretty interesting. So there's a lot to learn, but the nice thing is, like, I wake up in the morning and I feel like I'm actually looking forward to my work. I'm like, this is what I want to be doing with my life. I'm happy to be doing it. I'm excited. I'm, anticipating it. Whereas, like, most of my life before this, it's been like, oh no, another day of work. Oh no, another day. Like, what will the day bring? I was like dreading it rather than being excited for it. So it feels like a much better way to live. And it just made me wonder, like, why isn't this how we teach people that life could be or should be? Like, why do we tell people that they need to go become a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer to be happy? That's not happiness. That's not success. That's something else. That's just maybe that's security and reliability to some degree or status, but I don't think it's success unless the person actually
Yeah,
likes
no,
that. Yeah.
I agree. I think security is probably the biggest thing because
Yeah.
like society seems to be built around the concept of obtaining security
Yep.
at any cost, and generally the cost of that is happiness. It seems
Mm.
that's the cost of security.
Hmm.
Well, I think it's the way that probably the jobs and university is structured as well, you know.
Hmm.
It is frustrating for sure. Like it seems like the only path to take is to go through university,
Hmm.
get a degree, get out of that, and then get a job, you know.
Hmm.
Whereas that's just simply untrue, and it's crazy because like in a way it is the only path to take. It's the safest path, and every other path is probably harder for sure. I mean, there's like a good chance that it is more difficult to take whatever other path you're thinking of taking that doesn't involve the structures that the society you're living in is based on. You know, that's pretty self-explanatory there because the whole place you're living in is operates on this idea of like, well, you will get a job if you get this degree, and you're saying, actually, I don't want to do that.
Hmm.
And so now it's like, well, what are you gonna do now? You know, you got to think about it. But ultimately, I think everything is figure outable, and everybody has to leave uni at some point. Everybody has to get a job at some point, in a sense, like and everybody has to probably like come to terms with what makes them happy in life. So the sooner you do that last one, the happier you'll be like going forward, and the sooner you realize if you want to go through university and if you want to get a job the normal way, you know.
Hmm.
I think that if you find what makes you happy, you can figure out a way to do it for the rest of your life.
Yes.
It's probably some sacrifices you might have to take, like for a while you might have to work a job, a normal job or whatever, but eventually, like, I think it just comes down to drive and determination. Like, how badly do you want it? If you really want it that bad, then just go get it. That's it.
Yeah. No one's stopping you. You don't need anyone's permission. There is no system holding you back. Even though I know a lot of people can blame externals. Like, really, we are the masters of our day, like you said. And when we become masters of our day, we become masters of our week, and then our months, and then our years, and then our lifetimes. And I think that's way more fulfilling because now when I make mistakes, I'm not really afraid. I don't really feel bad about it. I just learn from it and I do the next thing and I make the next mistake and so on. It's not like I'm paralyzed by fear anymore. And I don't know why it's changed so much so quickly, but what you're saying is helping me get an idea for it. By the way, have you heard of Marie Forleo's book, Everything is Figure Outable?
No, I haven't.
Okay, you just came up with that term yourself because she uses that term in her content. I haven't read her book either, but
Oh,
people
okay.
have suggested it to me. But yeah, she tells this story of how she basically had to learn that lesson that everything's figure outable, all problems are solvable, right? Like there's nothing holding us back really, except our own limitations. Even Bruce Lee discovered the same thing for himself, ultimately. Um, so yeah, I think it's great that you found that out by age 21, um, and that you're pursuing it. And I know maybe you feel some regret and you're beating yourself up and stuff, but think about it. I'm 27 and I'm doing it now, right? So some people don't find it till they're 40. Like it however long it takes is how long it takes. Like you said, it's just part of a journey, right? And I don't think people regret having gone through the things they did, because they learned a lot of things, right? So yeah, I will say that you mentioned it's difficult to take the alternative path, but I think it's actually easier because you like it, because you'll be more motivated. You own it. It's your own. What will be harder is maybe that your parents and your friends and other people around you might go like, "Hey, I'm worried about you," or
Oh yeah.
"Are you
Oh my
sure
God.
you're on the right path?" They'll express this kind of faux
That's
concern. It's real concern to them, but to you, it's just like, "Let me do what I will, and if I fall, then help me get up." But like, don't make me fall before I fall in. You know?
yeah. That's like, I'm currently living that right now.
Hmm.
It's
Tell
it's
me more about
pretty.
that.
Well, yeah, it's just, I mean, there's lots of debates and discussions and arguments with parents, and I mean, I'm in the wrong place to be asking people, to be honest. Like, I'm in a university and I'm asking people, should I leave university? And they're like, obviously they're gonna say no,
Right.
like this is the wrong place, the wrong people to ask.
Yeah,
But the thing is that I don't want to live my life pandering to a resume. That's the main thing I
I
realized.
agree. I agree.
So I don't want a resume, and I realized that when I got my first job, which
Hmm.
was like 2016. I got that job. I'm like, I'm never ever having a resume in my life. Like in the sense of that, this resume that I'm building now, sure, it's gonna help me have side jobs, but the moment I can, it's out the door. Like I fucked the resume, you know. I don't I don't give a shit about that. So that's the kind of idea that I had, and it's ingrained in my DNA at this point.
Hmm.
But everybody that you ask here obviously will tell you, no, you need a resume, and a degree makes a resume better.
You don't need a resume.
That's you don't, right? That's the thing, you don't. So right now, what I'm living through is just a lot of. It's like the whole world is screaming at me, don't do what you want to do, in a sense.
Hmm.
Don't do it, right? That's where it is, and it's like you have to, like you just have to swim against the current. You know,
Yeah,
it's
or
kind of,
like tune
it's
it out and just listen to your own music. March to the beat of your own
yeah.
drum, right?
Exactly, but is it easy to do that? No, because it's like these are people you care about. These are people's opinions you care about,
Hmm.
and they are, and you probably have to live with these people as well on a day-to-day basis. So like,
Right.
it's difficult to come to terms with that
Hmm.
and like still feel good about going your own way.
Hmm.
In a sense, like feel that that's the right thing, because especially with parents, it can feel like you're disrespecting them when
Right.
really it's like, well, actually,
I'm
whose
respecting
life is it
myself.
anyway?
That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's whose choices are these to make,
Who's
and
going to have to live with this 50
ultimately,
years from now? It's you, not them, right?
exactly,
You have to live with
and
it.
ultimately it's like I have to, whatever it is I do, if even if I fail, at least I have tried. So don't let me
Yeah.
just not do it. Just let me do it.
Yeah.
Let me make the mistakes I want to make. Like that's the thing where it's like there's an idea that parents is like, we're helping you, like we're trying to stop you from making a mistake.
Yeah.
But I think that it's figure outable. You make a mistake, you get back up, and that's kind of the same thing that I really dislike, this idea of a backup plan, which is that you prepare for failure before you've even experienced, before you even put the first foot through the door.
Hmm.
Like, instead of falling, this idea of falling backwards instead of falling forward, there's always this general thing in society where it's like you fall back, that's it. One fall, go to the backup plan. But backup plans fail too.
Yeah.
Like, that's possible. What are you going to do then? So I think it's really, it's easier said than done, but like when you find something you love, it just like everything pushes you to just do that one thing, like
Hmm.
with every single uh like fiber of your body, just to pursue this with all your heart. And I feel personally that success is certain as long as I believe that,
Hmm.
so I could don't really see any chance of failure. It's a bit delusional, but like that's just the way I've kind of come to terms with it.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I don't think there's anything delusional about it, although many people will tell you that it's delusion. I think you're right that falling forward is far better than falling backward. And the way you put it was really eloquent because I've never thought about it that way, that a backup plan is falling back on something, which is actually going backwards, not forwards. Because my backup plan was so I quit my job at the CRA, the government of Canada, and started this podcast. And then my backup plan was, oh, I'll do this project management course to get a job as a project manager, double my income and all that. Seemed like a very responsible thing to do. And I have a very lucky opportunity. A friend will help me apply to multiple companies that he has contacts at. So I'm basically guaranteed a job if I apply enough. Like he'll take a 1% chance and make it a 70% chance. And so it seems like I would be an idiot not to do this, right? And yet I spoke with my brother, I spoke with some people, and I realized like he told me like, look, a doctor doesn't have a backup plan when they're going to medical school. That's their plan. Like that's what they're doing. Um, so why do I need a backup plan? You know, in a way, like, and a lot of entrepreneurs have done this, is that they remove their safety net and then they have no choice but to succeed, right? And so now I have 9 months to make the podcast financially sustainable, and it's growing faster than I expect. It's already started generating revenue. I'm also realizing that I'm deeply connecting with people and impacting families across the world. Like one guy I interviewed, his dad texted him and said like, "Hey, I feel like I understand you better now after watching that podcast." And I was like, "So if I love what I'm doing intrinsically and it's having a positive impact on the world, what more can I ask for from a lifetime endeavor? It'll be financially sustainable eventually. There is no, so you don't need guarantees. Like, yeah, I don't think you'll fail. And I think the worst kind of failure you'll have, realistically, if you continue on this path, is that you'll learn what you like more than what you're doing. That's all. Like you'll learn the
Yeah,
next
that's
thing.
cool.
You'll pivot to the next thing. Yeah, which is
Yeah,
what.
I never thought about that.
Yeah. So basically, there is no failure, as far as I can tell. Like, so for me, it might not be podcasting forever. In 40 years, I might be doing virtual reality stuff. I don't know, but it's always going to be some form of interacting with people and learning about people and learning philosophy, stories, life, self improvement, because that's just stuff I'm realizing I love intrinsically. Having conversations with people. You can never predict a person, right? And I think maybe that's what you like about music too. It's this creative endeavor where you can't predict how you will. You can't predict the next 5 seconds of the song you'll compose until you've composed it, right?
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
surprise yourself.
100%.
Yeah. I'd be really interested to hear some of your music at some point, and yeah, just I guess yeah, there's a lot I want to know.
Yeah, the kind of song I'm working on is, funnily enough, is very related to this exact idea.
Mhm.
So I feel very good about it. Its production is great.
Nice.
It's coming along well. So once it's done, I'll send it to you. You can give it a listen. It's my favorite thing I made so far.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I agree with everything you said. Yeah.
that's awesome. Also, I wanted to read out a quote from Ayn Rand. She wrote, "An error made on your own is safer than 10 truths accepted on faith, because the first leaves you the means to correct it, but the second destroys your capacity to distinguish truth from error."
That's pretty deep. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good way. Yeah, yeah, I think I've been trying to fight this battle with my parents for a long time. I mean, what you said about some dad calling the guy you interviewed, and his
yeah,
dad said, "Oh well,
I
that'll
know
be
you
great
met
if
him.
that happened."
Yeah,
I don't know if my parents will watch this, but that'd be awesome. But the
they
idea,
will.
like I want to be able to just make my own mistakes. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that,
There
and
isn't.
it feels better with living with it. It goes back to this one thing that I had where it's like it was a laptop that I bought in my off eBay, and my dad was telling me, "Don't get it, don't get it, don't get it."
Mhm,
I got it anyway. It was like it was cheap, and it was like pretty okay. The thing didn't it definitely wasn't the best, and it stopped working for a while. But I made it work for way longer than it should have, and I lived with that.
mhm.
And then later on down the line, he's like, "I told you not to get this." He's like, "But I did, and I lived with it, didn't I?" You know, I that was the thing. It's like I did it. I realized my mistake, and I lived with it, and I feel better that I did that. You know, like whatever it is I do, at least I can know that I tried and I've learned from it. But
Mhm.
it's better than like the like having experienced the regrets, at least in high school, of not doing these things sooner. That's just so painful. I don't want to have those like not having tried things sooner regret. That's the worst type of shit that you can ever have. So I can do without that in any place that I can do without it. I'm gonna do without it, you know.
I think that's a great way to live. Lots of people I've talked with on the podcast. So Holliander, he's probably watching this and typing in Twitch chat. I can't see chat, but you might see him in the after party. But he told me the same thing. He's 43 now. When he was about 16 to 18 years old, he realized that most of his regrets were coming from the things he didn't say that he wishes he had said, right? Like telling the people close to you you love them, or just
Mm.
setting boundaries, or just doing things like, or just saying what's on your mind rather than being afraid, how will people react? What will they think of me? And so since then, he's lived without regrets, and he loves his life, right? So there's, I don't know, the happiest people I meet are the people who full send it. They don't hold back.
Yeah.
They don't go to bed with regrets. They just do what they feel like doing, and then they learn from it and they take responsibility for it, and then they do the next thing, right? They don't stop. They don't just decide, now my life is over. I've given up. It's too hard. They just keep trying. Um, yeah, I think that's an amazing way to live. Also, there's a saying from a League of Legends coach who was helping me before I quit League of Legends. I was trying to improve at that before I started the podcast. He said something like, "Learn to condition yourself to be more worried about missing opportunities than of making mistakes."
Mm,
And I think that's what you're
yeah.
doing. You are conditioning yourself to be that way. You already have, and I think that's scary to your parents. That's scary to people around you, but that's okay. Like, let them be scared, but then also let them see the fruits of that, right? Because they will. Like, I think Abhirami auntie, your mom, right? She's been supporting me. My whole family has been reinvigorated. My mom, my dad, they're supporting me. They're saying they're really glad that I'm trying something. And I feel like my mom, who was kind of purposeless to some degree, now has more of a purpose seeing me, being motivated by my purpose. And I figured, oh, maybe she'll get into something. Maybe she'll restart her business or things like that. Because I've asked her many times over the years, and she said, no, she's kind of done with life. She's kind of given up. But I don't know what will
Mm,
reignite the spark. But it might be that I just have to do the things I love doing. And so I think you shouldn't underestimate the impact of pursuing your passions because you'll inspire other people to do the same. Just because they see you and they're like, oh, it's possible. I can do this. And they'll try it.
yeah. No, that's definitely true. I don't know. I spent a lot of time just not having it. So now it just every second that I imagine going forward not doing it feels way worse.
Yeah.
Like once you find what you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
everything away from that feels much worse now
Yep.
because you know for certainty.
Yeah.
So I don't. It's just difficult just to do to take a break from it or like do the responsible thing if you will
I
um
don't think you need to
because
be responsible, or that I don't think that is responsibility. Responsibility is not taking breaks from things you love. Let me put it this way. Okay. So I used to, this is from the philosopher Elliot Temple. I'll link his article um, that has this idea. It's basically asking the question, do you take breaks so that you can do more, or do you put in effort so that you can take more breaks?
hmm, do you take breaks so that you can do more okay, yeah, okay, I see. Put in more, wait, do you take breaks so that you can do more, or do you put in more effort so you can take breaks?
Yeah. So I used to be the kind of person who would come home from work and then just want to play video games or watch Netflix and just recharge and
Mm,
reset for the next day of work. So basically, I did my work so that I could take my breaks. But now I realize that I want to do more work. Like, there are days I've worked 18 hours the full day and I sleep 6 hours and I wake up and I want to work again for 18 hours. But obviously, I know that's not sustainable. I know I need exercise and food and sleep and all these things. So I do those things so that I can do more work. It's a very different life, right? Like, I actually want to do more work. So some people might look at this and say that's workaholism. And I'm like, no, it's just life. Like, what is life if not to do the things you love to do and to create the things you want to
yeah,
create, whatever that might be?
100%, yeah. There was a point, there was like 2 weeks when I was here
Mm-hmm.
quite recently where it's amazing. I love this feeling, but it does take a toll on you to some extent. But
Mm-hmm.
it was every day was so long, but in the best sense.
Mm-hmm.
During the mornings, like I had just things to do and like errands to run or whatever classes to go to that I just had to get out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
There was like a small break in the middle where I was kind of like the usual things, eat and whatever. Sometimes I just talk with friends,
Mm-hmm.
but then between 9 till like 1 or 2 in the morning
Mm-hmm.
was just music. It was
Pure
just like
creativity. Yeah.
I would be with my friends, and it was all of us in a room or whatever, or just me alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be there until like the very latest that I could be there to catch the train back, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And that felt amazing. It was like the last thing I did every time was creativity, and to be that feeling that you did a lot in a day
Mm-hmm.
is the best.
It
When
is.
the days feel really long, like you're like, wow, this is the week. It's not even like Friday yet, and it's like it feels like it's Friday, but it's Tuesday or something.
I've been having that. Yeah.
That yeah, that's the best. That's the best feeling. Like if I could have that every day, it's amazing. But it's funny. It's like then you have one day that feels quick, and then you look back, you're like, oh shit, where'd the time go? Like
Yeah.
it's like time is a funny little thing. But
It is.
yeah, definitely like doing a lot in a single day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never feel more motivated to work. Like I told you already, the regret that I had every second I wasn't spending, it's a
Mm-hmm.
bit toxic. That side of things is toxic for sure.
Yep.
But for me to like, when I have time off, like while I've been here, I don't think I sit down and watch Netflix or anything ever.
Yep.
You know, it's like I'll be at uni and then I'll come back and I'll go to work. I'll do music or something, and then my break would be to hang with friends. You know,
Right. That's
and
how you
through that, it's
recharge.
like
Yep.
yeah, and that's my kind of, as well as like that was my understanding of how to get away from that toxicity, was that I actually wait, I need to have life experience. I need to have experiences.
Hmm.
So I was okay, I make music, but what fuels the creativity for these musics is those breaks
Hmm.
actually, which is that just live
Yes.
life, you know. Do things. Don't think about music necessarily in those sense,
Mhm.
because whatever it is you do is bound to inspire you anyway. Like
Yeah.
so, but as long as I there was this idea that I had was just to deserve the break. Like if I didn't do a specific, like if I didn't put enough work into music that day, it felt worse taking that break for sure.
You need
Like
to earn the break.
yeah, it feels you have like I there's a certain amount, there's like a threshold. I can't explain exactly how it
It's
works. It's
intuitive.
just the thing
I
that
understand. Yeah.
it clicks in your head and you're like, okay, I deserved the break that I experienced today, you know?
Today was a
And it
good
feels
day.
so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it feels like you earned that break, not like it was undeserved, not like it was just laziness, but actually recharging. It was
Exactly.
productive rest, let's say, or productive
Yeah.
experience. Yeah. No, I think that's a fine way to look at it. I like that. Just wondering how I look at it now. Because one thing I had before, so I've now moved in with Karthik and his wife. They bought it down us. This is actually the first time I have my own room in 2.5 years. Because before this, I was living with my dad in like a 400 square foot basement suite. So it's just very
Mm.
small, one studio thing. That's probably similar to your situation. You're sharing a room with someone. That was a bit of a bigger room. So it's probably bad for both me and my dad to be in that situation for so long. But now that we're both out of it, he's better off, I'm better off. And I realize like my habits are improving. I actually feel like I have my own creative space to like organize and change things and figure out. And yeah, lots more ideas are coming to me. Like now when I go and I shower or brush my teeth, I have a new idea and I need to go put it into action, right? So I guess what advice would you give to someone who has trouble taking their mind off of something? They're obsessed. Because I guess most of my life I've suppressed my obsession. I've told myself, okay, this is bad. You shouldn't want to just do one thing for so long. But now I look at successful people and they're kind of monomaniacal. They just do one thing for like years and they become extreme masters at it because they're so obsessed. And their mind is thinking about it in their sleep. They're dreaming about it. And they enjoy it.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of people would look at that and go like, that's like psychopath level stuff. And I'm just thinking, no, it doesn't have to be. It could just be life for a little bit. How do you function in
Yeah,
that
no.
sense?
I am 100. I have a very obsessive personality for sure.
Yep.
I can say that with 100% certainty.
Yep.
Like I improved at incredible rate with music.
Mm-hmm.
According to the professor that I had here as well, because I barely started making it, and I walked into these rooms and I was like, I'm gonna sound a little cocky here, but I was the best one in the room. You know, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
and I just sat in my bedroom and I did music. Like
Yep.
I did what made me happy, and I made sure that everything I made, as long as whatever I made next, it had to be better than what I made last. That was
Yes.
it. That was the mindset that I had. It was okay. I made something. It is what it is. I'm not happy with certain things. All right, it's fine. Move on. Next thing. What can I do better? You know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just obsessed with this thing because it made me feel so good, and nothing had made me feel good at that point yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like I hadn't done anything that really made me feel happy
So biotech,
for
drawing the art, all of these things, none of them made you feel like creating music did.
not none of them made them feel like how music made me feel.
Right.
Art is like a people say hobby and thing. I hate that word. Honestly, I hate the word hobby because people always put that word on me to music,
Mm.
and it makes me feel very angry
It's
every
your
time. I was like,
calling,
oh
it's
yeah,
not your hobby.
yeah. So it really it does make me it makes me angry. But like
Mm-hmm.
I guess for lack of a better word, in the sense that uh arts like doing digital art and just drawing, it made me feel good to like a release to an extent, like
Mm-hmm.
okay, it was a separate, but it didn't make my heart beat. Like
Okay.
it didn't make me want to get up the next day and
Do that
just
again.
do that one thing again and again and again and again and never stop, you
Interesting.
know.
Yeah.
That I had never found anything like that yet. And that definitely was like looking back on it, I think there's a thing with emotion as well, is like you don't really realize it what it is you're experiencing until you look back on what it was
Exactly.
later on. And those, like I was not happy, you know.
Mm. You didn't
So
realize you were
when the
unhappy until you experienced joy in art, in
exactly,
creativity. You didn't
yeah,
realize how what you felt when you were drawing. You just had a sense that, okay, this feels good. It's a release. But you didn't know that it could have been so much more until you experienced it so much more. And then you're like, wait, this is what art can really feel like when I'm creating freely and experiencing something that I guess makes your heartbeat, is like makes you feel alive, truly alive.
Yeah, 100%. So that's like, I mean, when did I find music? Like 2021,
2 years
right?
ago.
So yeah, 2 years ago. So I was 18. Oh, sorry, 19.
Hmm.
So it's 19 years of just, well, minus the kid years where nothing really matters, I suppose. But well, let's just say whatever, like, negligible amount, but
Yeah,
19 years of just not being happy. So
right.
that's like kind of what I realized
It's
was
a
like I was
tragedy.
just not, yeah. It's not just not a way to live. Like
It's not.
once you find it, you're like, well, do I really want to go back to that? No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I've found it. So that's having found that.
Hmm.
Wait, I just lost. What was the original question? Was creativity though? I don't know how I got to this now. I'm like
That's
trying
fine.
to
I go on a
backtrack.
lot of tangents too. It's okay. I've accepted that that will
Um,
be how my podcast is, and I'm okay with that.
yeah. So I like once you experience that, it's like nothing else matters to
Hmm.
to that to that point. But when it comes to like, I think the original question was what does it do like in terms of creativity? How do you get out of like people aren't feeling creative or
Or
something
no,
along
so
the line of
specifically,
that?
how, like, well, I guess maybe it was the wrong question, to be honest, because it was something like, what if you can't? So let's say I take a break. I go on a 2 week vacation or 1 week vacation, and I say, I'm not going to think about podcasting. And then that's all I can think about, right? So should I be trying not to think
Oh,
about
right,
it?
right.
Or should I just, yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah. How do I get my
I
mind
remember
off the
now.
thing? Yeah.
I remember now how I got to this. Yeah,
Go ahead.
that was all to say I have that obsessive personality. Like
Right.
because of that, and that's kind of what makes you improve really quickly. Like what you're saying, it's like like successful people have that, and it drives them to succeed
Right.
because, or it just brings success quicker
They don't
because.
need to force themselves to do the thing, right? They want to
Right.
do the thing.
Yeah.
They need to, and I think that's a better place to be, is where you want to do the thing a lot and then you have to scale it back and figure out ways to sustain it, versus you just don't want to do the thing and you have to force yourself to want to do it. That's a lot harder journey to,
Exactly.
yeah, thing to force. At that point, if you're doing that, maybe find something else, or like figure out what it is about this thing that might be the piece of the bigger thing that you need to pursue. Like for you, art, it was probably just the creating aspect, but then it was music that really made your heart beat, so you had to go through the graphic design into music. And then maybe science, like you like the rigorousness of science, you like the way that it makes progress in consistent ways, so you might explore that in your 30s and so on. And you'll connect all the dots, right? Like I think you'll always be learning just like everyone else. There's no
Yeah.
like,
It's
yeah.
constant experience learning.
Yeah.
But in the sense of like that, I don't think anyone who has an obsessive personality probably
Hmm.
it depends, I guess. I'm not a psychology major or whatever, I don't know exactly how
You don't
these
need to
things can
be.
affect you.
Yeah.
But like to the sense of, let's just say, to obsessive personality, like you found something and you really, that's all you want to do.
Hmm.
That's not something you need to suppress necessarily to be happy. I
Hmm.
think it's like what you said before, is you just need to find a balance with it and understand. I could the way my understanding was that, well, it's good to be obsessive about this thing, but you also just need to have time to live. Part of this obsession was that I want to make the best music I can make, right?
Hmm.
I want to make the best music in the world.
Right.
That's my kind of thing. The reason I'm obsessive, that's my goal that I'm obsessive of, and I have visions and dreams that I want to achieve.
Hmm.
This is where I want to go. In order to achieve that, I actually need breaks.
Right.
I need to live life. That was what I realized, was that these things are connected,
Hmm.
and it's not that this obsession means you should spend no time doing anything else in order to achieve this. Actually, it's not achievable unless you take these breaks and live life, because you can't create good things without having experiences. That's what I came to realize. So I think depending on what it is your obsession is, it's just to realize how exactly breaks tie into assisting these things, because breaks ultimately, like in anything, are necessary.
Hmm.
Like whatever it is, you need to have some space away from it to kind of just have that time to, like even you go into sciences to build the pathways, like the neurons and whatnot. you
Yeah.
know you need that time. Like exercise, you need the rest. That's when you actually build muscle, is when you take rest.
Hmm.
So I think intrinsically, like in everything you do, whatever it is, whatever pathway, breaks are required. There's a
Hmm.
full stop there.
Yeah.
That rest is needed.
Yeah.
But I think you just need to find a way to justify that. If you're obsessive, it's probably hard for you to justify it. Like, oh, you feel really bad about it. That's how I feel personally.
Hmm.
Not necessarily for everybody, but you just need to find a way to figure out how exactly that breaks ties into you achieving this goal you're obsessive over, and then you feel good about the breaks.
Hmm.
That's the way I looked at it, and that's the way I feel better about breaks. There's still days though where I take a break and I'm like, ah man, I didn't deserve that.
Hmm.
Like it's difficult to like do that every day because sometimes things happen, or sometimes you're just not particularly creative for whatever reason as a block, and you need to figure your way out through it. Not every day can be exactly the same.
Yep.
You can stick to a routine as much as you want, but it's not gonna play out the exact same way every time. So that's all just part of it. You just have come to accept it, I guess.
Yeah, in my case, I have a podcast scheduled every day at the same time, and I'm surprised I'm like booked up for the whole next week. And it's getting booked up 2 weeks in advance now. And I'm realizing like I love to do this, but also looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, some of those interviews I did really badly. Like I was not as good as I could have been. I know I could have done better. And some of them I'm like, wow, this was really great. This was like genuine connection. There was something here. There was a spark. I need to figure out how to recreate, replicate, evolve that into future episodes. And I really liked what you said. Your goal was to make every song better than the last. One of my goals was to make every episode at least one concrete way better than the last one, so that my 100th episode would be 99 ways better than my first, basically.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
And that's
okay.
how I can keep improving. I can keep adding small incremental changes, and it just compounds, right? And it just grows. So you get this compounding interest effect. I think you might like Alex Pang's ideas. He wrote a book called Rest. He did a Google Talk as well. I'll link you that talk later. But he talks about how he did a bunch of research on how successful people rest. And he found that, for example, this weird correlation where a whole bunch of scientists who were very good at science, physicists, chemists, biologists, they also were avid mountain climbers. Like not just hobbyist mountain climbers, but like competitive mountain climbers. They would climb like ridiculously difficult peaks. They would do them in record times and things like that. And so I think this idea again, like you're right, hobby is just not like I don't like yeah, maybe I don't know. I'm trying to think of what is something I do as a hobby. Maybe I read as a hobby, but I do everything else. Like it's just part of life. So, but then I can get obsessed with reading too. I can just read all day. So,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
I think there's a very fine like that word. It's just not a right word.
it's maybe not a
I've
productive
never
word. Yeah, we need better words.
I've I've never used that word in a good sense. Like personally, like whenever it's been used, I associate it with a negative thing, which is that hobby is like to me, it's just like yeah, it's whatever.
Mhm.
But I think ultimately, if you're doing something, you enjoy it. Like it's not whatever. It's
And
not
then
just
every
something
hobby
you
has
do
the
on the
chance to
side.
become a career, a calling, a passion.
Yeah,
Basically, you're learning about
exactly.
yourself by doing it. But even video games, I think, teach people a lot about themselves and about the world
Yeah,
and their mind.
yeah,
And
for sure.
yeah,
No doubt. Like I just don't think that's I don't like that word personally. It
I
is what it
understand.
is. It
Yeah,
exists.
I prefer the
But
word passion. I prefer the word calling. I prefer the word career, even. Or yeah, art, like vocation is great too. You can do a lot
yeah,
of things. Yeah.
I actually remember you recommending me Rest 2 years ago when we had that
Really?
conversation. And yeah, you said I still haven't read it, but you had it in my
You don't have to
bookmark
read it. I haven't read
there.
the book. I just watched his Google Talk because it's easier to watch a 1 hour talk than read like a 30-hour book or a 50-hour book.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I would rather watch 31-hour talks on 30 different books than read one book for 30 hours. But it depends
Yeah.
on the book.
I,
Yeah.
I think for the rest I got into like a pretty
Hmm.
there was a time like before when I took that year off, I got into really structured living,
Hmm.
and it was just perfectly like all routinely based. And I kind of found a nice like golden time of like how much time I spent making music a day,
Hmm.
which was like 4 or 5 hours or something like that.
Yep.
And past that, like
Your
I
creativity
kind of
starts to
like
dip.
yeah, it just kind of becomes shit. So
It does. It
so
does. Yeah.
I stopped, and I would do this thing where it's like at 12 naps were great as well. Like at 12
Naps
o'clock,
recharge
I'd take a
creative
nap.
energy. They do.
Yeah. So I take this nap, and there's this thing is like trippy thing that happens with naps as well. I realize this with creativity, where there's a second before you fall asleep, where if you have a creative idea in your brain, if you're like constantly, for me, what I used to do is I still do it now, but like not as much because I kind of don't need to do it as much anymore.
Hmm.
But what I would do was if I had something and I wanted to develop it, but I didn't know exactly how to, I had like a base structure for a song, like, like just a melody.
Hmm.
I'd keep this melody playing in my head, and then I would go take a nap. And usually I'd be tired enough that I'd fall asleep pretty
And
quickly.
you'll wake
But
up with the next part.
no, what happened was I wouldn't fall asleep. There's a certain point where you have to wake yourself up before you fall asleep. There's a point where right before you're about to fall asleep, whatever it is you're thinking of just develops, like it just explodes into a whole thing, and you hear these multiple aspects.
Okay.
If you fall asleep, you will not remember it. You
Okay,
wake
you'll
up and
forget.
that thing is gone. It's
Interesting.
gone. It's definitely gone.
Okay.
So there was like certain ways that I would have to like. It was difficult because you'd have to set a timer or something, or
Yeah.
you like sit in a chair maybe, and you have like some sort of way of like waking, like a sort of mildly uncomfortable chair.
Right.
But I got kind of good at just being able to wake up as soon as that idea developed. Like, like I just wake up and
So
then go back and
so
do
you
it.
used falling asleep as a creative inspiration tool, but not actually falling all the way asleep, but like the process of falling asleep and then waking yourself up. That's so
Yeah, there's
fascinating. I've never heard of that. That's awesome.
some weird like thing that happens. I think it. I feel like everyone. It must be with everyone. Like I don't. I'm definitely not the only person. I think it's just one of those things where you have to like be open to it.
And develop
Go
it. Yeah.
have have some creative idea and just try taking a nap. And right before you fall asleep, you make sure just have to keep repeating it. Like that must be the only thing you're
It's a
thinking of.
mantra basically. That yeah.
Yeah, and
You
then
don't get
as you're falling
distracted.
asleep,
Yeah.
it just develops like multiple. You hear different aspects of, suddenly you just hear drums or whatever, like different things, and it just becomes a whole song, and you have to just go back in. Yeah, I never remembered everything I heard for sure,
Right.
but I remembered like if I got one thing out of it, that was good enough.
If you got just one of the five tracks that were playing in your
Yeah,
mind. And I think that's because what
that
you're
was
doing
enough.
is you're tapping into your subconscious, your unconscious, which can think in multiple tracks, right? Your conscious mind will have more trouble doing that. It needs to think on one track at a time and then put them together. But that's fascinating because I've been noticing that I seem to learn a lot while I'm asleep. Like I just wake up
Mm,
with new
yeah.
perspectives on old ideas, and I'm like, huh, what is happening? And I think that happens when you're creatively free. Um, anyway, so just to wrap it up, we're close to the end of the hour here. I'm sure people have lots of questions. I think you've shared a lot of interesting things. I'd love to have you on another time as well. Um,
Sure, yeah.
so the last question I have for you for this interview part before the Q&A is just what advice would you give to someone who's, because I've interviewed someone who's 15, someone who's 17, someone who's 18. So I guess for and I've asked each of them, what advice would you give to the person who is 2 years younger than you, kind of? So what advice would you give for the 17 and 18-year-old? The 17-year-old, she is an artist and she's in school, but school is not really good for artists. She wants to get into drawing more visual art and all those things. But she seemed to have pretty good philosophy. And then the 18-year-old, he's playing League of Legends. He's also in university, and he discussed flow and wu-wei, like the art of like this idea of effortless creation, effortless mastery of something. What it takes to get really good at something where you're just flowing. You don't have to be thinking while you're creating, and you probably experienced that when you were composing music. In that 5 hour period, that's probably what you're experiencing. It's deeply satisfying. You don't have attention left over to remember how you feel or remember whether you're hungry or not, or you probably won't even hear if someone's calling your name, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to them if they want to, over the next few years, build the self-confidence to just do what they want in life and to pursue their passions and to try to remain, I guess, intellectually or emotionally independent? That makes sense. Like first-handed, thinking about themselves and what they want before thinking about what their parents want.
Mm, take- that's that's a deep
It's a
question.
loaded question.
Um,
But yeah.
yeah, what advice would I give them to basically have the courage to step up and do what they want to do?
Like, what did you go
It's
through between 18 and 21 to be where you are today? Because you had to go through this yourself just now, recently.
yeah, when I 18 to 20, really I went through this between yeah, actually 18, 19, 20, 19 to 21
Mm-hmm.
kind of was what I went through here, which was I think ultimately it just depends on how much you love what it is you found. Right? If you really love it that much and if it is what you want to do, then you have to just figure out a way to do it. Like I can't really give advice to a sense of like, okay, you should do this, this, and this, like A, X, Y, and Z. There's no set path for you to do what you want to do and get to where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
But they probably both have dreams. They probably both have things that like visions, and they see themselves doing these things in specific ways.
Mm-hmm.
And if you keep those in your head long enough and you kind of believe, if they're strong enough, they feel real. Like they feel like the future. They feel like they already happened, and it makes it feel like success is certain because of that. Because it seems like you've seen the future. You're like, oh well, that's me. Well, that's kind of
It's
I've already seen
inevitable.
myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it. I'm good. Like, so to that point, it's like, okay, well, if you know that's gonna happen, now what you need to do, at the minimum, is to keep doing what it is you want to do to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, okay, well, I want to be there. You need to just figure out what's the next step to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, you know, maybe like if you want to be a doctor, that's the thing. Medical school is the next step. You know, you see that vision of yourself. It seems like you've seen the future. I'm a doctor in the future, and the next step is medical school. With arts, it's much more difficult because it's like, well, how do you get to that point? And you know, it's probably like not quite as clear of a path where society has laid it out for you. But as long as you can see, okay, well, just break it down to small steps. That's what I did in
Mm-hmm.
sense. Is like you have this thing, and my next step from to get to that goal, when I saw, okay, I see this place where I want to be, you know, I have this dream, I see this clearly.
Mm-hmm.
The next step for me was, okay, first just keep doing music. That was the first thing, is get good enough at it, and to a point where like I feel confident with what I make.
Mm-hmm.
So I got there. The next step after that was, well, now I want to start releasing something. Oh, actually, now I want to build up contacts to, you know, hopefully release something one day and have some sort of foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured out, well, America is the place for that to go there, you know. So those are the things I broke down and kind of decided to go through. But in terms of like having the courage to be independent and think for yourself and go through and do those things, that's a lot more difficult. Because when it comes to, I kept telling myself that yeah, it's gonna be easy to do that. But now I'm at this point where I'm living through this moment of everybody shouting at me not to do it. Like everybody, you know, around me is telling me not to do it, except for like a select few people.
And yourself,
And it's
hopefully.
extremely, yeah, it's myself, yeah, and extremely difficult. The voices that they make can become an own voice in your head.
I've had that happen.
can
I've been talking about that. Yeah.
They can start to form another separate voice.
Yeah.
And that voice is something that you have to drown. You have to you have to make the decision. Either you wanna drown that voice, or you wanna swim with it. It's like it's up to you now. Like,
Yeah.
that's totally your choice.
Mhm.
I don't think I can make that decision for you. But if you want it bad enough, you know, eventually you're just gonna have to go and get it. You're gonna have to take that leap. Everybody's got to swim in the ocean at some point and just jump in there. Like, whether or not, in my case, it was like the way I'm looking at it right now is whether or not I do university, I'm gonna have to jump out into the water at some point and do this thing that I want to do with every fiber in my body.
Mhm.
Like, that's gonna happen at some point. Inevitably, of what I do. Getting a job or working is not necessarily a worry for me. I can get a job and work in the meantime and do that.
Yep.
But when everybody's shouting at me not to do it, shit, I'm still going through and figuring out how to like you know, keep my independence in that sense. But
Right.
I think it's a matter of like, as long as you, for me, the key thing that keeps me going is as long as I believe success is certain, I'll get there anyway.
Yep.
Right. But to keep that independence, I wish I could give them advice, because I haven't figured it out yet, to be honest. I'm right now, I'm in that process. I'll give you an update, I don't know, like a week or two from now, when I've probably done it fully.
We
But
can do
I
a
guess if
follow-up.
I had to, yeah, I feel like actually, if I had to think about what would I do to just keep this independence, or the teachers, or whatever it is, whoever it is telling you to do this thing that's not necessarily your own thoughts, look at the lives that they live and ask yourself, is that the life you want to live? Because it's likely that the path that they're telling you to take is what led to them to their own life. They might be telling you there's some sort of regret, and then eventually they're like, oh well, I wish I did this university, and then now I ended up doing it, now I'm here. Okay, but is that where you want to be? If it's not, then obviously you shouldn't listen to their advice, because they're not where you want to be. Maybe like the best thing I would say is maybe look at somebody that is where you want to be and ask them what they did. You know, if they said, hey, I went through university, maybe that is a path for you then, or whatever it is. But ultimately, if you're looking at all these people telling you do this, but like I look at every single one of you, and none of you are where I want to be, so why would I listen to any one of you anyway? Like, you're not me, one, and you're not where I want to be, and I don't want to be where you are either.
Right.
So why am I listening to what you're saying I should do? You know, that's the way I'm looking at it. Not to say I have nothing valuable to say about these things, but ultimately, if you're giving me advice about what path I should take and where I should go with my life, you're not where I want to be with my life. You know,
Exactly.
we're not the same persons.